everything that I know. Says I gotta go, tired of going solo. But I'm never gonna go there again. This is what it is, this is who I am. This is where I finally take my stand. I didn't want to fall, but I don't have to crawl. I'm not the one with two star hands. Giving him the best of everything that's left of the life inside this man. I've been born again.
Yes, we are born again. Good day, everybody. Good Saturday. The last Saturday of September 2023. Can you believe it? 2023.
And it's interesting. I look at the weather. He said major weather pattern changes coming up here right after this weekend. Like the high today is still going to be about 90 something, right? But next week, highs in the 70s. It's kind of funny. You know, I grew up in northern Minnesota where our winter wasn't 3 months. It was 5 months at least. Yeah, I know you grew up in Philly, you know, is probably almost as bad. But down here, summer is 5 months, you know.
Yeah, and in Germany.
Tell me about Germany.
Germany, summer, you know, summer the highs are like in the 70s.
Yeah,
you know, I mean, when it gets in the 80s, they're just dying.
What's happened here the last few years? There's been some major heat waves over there.
Yeah, and they don't have, because they don't have air conditioning.
Yeah, one of my longtime clients, she and her daughter went over to Europe summer, and you know they got back. I said, "So how'd it go?" They said, "It's the most miserable trip they had because it was like 103 in Paris and no air conditioning."
Wow!
How do you sleep at night in that?
Yeah, I can't imagine 103 in Paris.
Yeah,
but yeah, there I can see it, and a lot of the heat there would be from all of the cars. Mm-hmm. You know, that would add to it. Cars and the concrete and everything
in the
reflecting
city,
in the city, right? In the city itself. I bet if you go in the country, it's not as bad.
Yeah,
but it's something else. It's changed. Like I said, you know, it used to be beautiful over there, and you know, in the 70s, like in Holland, we lived like 2 miles from the ocean, the North Sea. Okay. And, you know, we used to ride our bike through these sand dunes over to the coast, to the beach. And you go over there and, you know, it's 78 degrees and, man, it's a wonderful day. Everybody's having a great time on the beach and enjoying it. But it's funny because you get so used to that. That's a good day.
Yeah.
Because, you know, it's a short time. I mean, you don't get like Southern California or Florida days there, you know, along in northern Europe.
Yeah.
You know, because Holland really is the north. That's as far north as you get. Because once you go around the top of Den Helder is the top of Holland. That's as far north as you get. And then you turn the curve and you get over up into the North Sea and then you go over to Denmark.
Yeah.
But you're already... That's over Germany. That's north of Germany.
Yeah.
So it's right across from England. You got England, the Channel.
Yeah, it's
and
kind
you
of
got Holland here.
So it's the north shore of what you might call mainland Europe, right?
Right.
So that's kind of lowland, whereas a lot of
That's funny because that's what Netherlands means. The Netherlands.
Oh, okay.
Nederland, the lowlands.
Yeah, with all the canals and everything. But a lot of Europe is very mountainous. I really didn't understand that till recently. You know, on Google Maps, you can just kind of go flying over. Like, my God, this continent is so mountainous, except for the Netherlands.
Right.
And
see, Holland is really, it's what's interesting about Holland is that it is, much of it is what they call reclaimed land. In fact, they have this saying, God created the world and the Dutch created Holland.
Yeah.
Because they're still doing it. What they're doing, they go into the ocean and they have these giant scoops, and they scoop the land out, and they pour it on the land and bring it in, and then they fill in around the coasts.
Yeah. And
that's what the dikes are, actually. They're just they build up these islands or barriers, and so a lot of Holland is below sea level.
I was going to say that, yeah.
And so they have artificially built these levees. We call them levees. They call them dikes.
Yeah.
But anyway, the levees are higher than the water, but on the other side of the levee where the towns are, they're lower. In fact, there have been some tragedies. I think it was 1966. And one of the dikes broke. Oh. And it in the middle of the night. Oh. And it flooded an entire town. Yeah. And it killed 6,000 people in one night. 'Cause the people were asleep. Can you imagine you're asleep and all this water comes in and covers you? Because, I mean, it was that far underwater, and all of a sudden it floods the whole town. And all the people drown.
Kind of like
6,000 people.
You know, much of New Orleans is under sea level.
Yeah.
And Hurricane Katrina, the dike broke.
Exactly.
Disaster.
Right.
Absolute disaster.
The difference there was, in this case, they were asleep. They didn't have a chance to leave and evacuate. So, yeah.
Now, much of, was it, where is it over there in Saudi Arabia? Qatar, where they're actually going out into the Arabian Gulf and creating these resorts with all the boats and docks and everything. Right. And turning it into some marvelous stuff.
Yeah, yeah, beautiful stuff. I mean, they can do it. They just scoop the dirt out, make their man-made islands or man-made peninsulas, and they're building it on. And then if they plant enough vegetation, the roots will hold the sand together and everything, and eventually it works that way. But it reminds me of the old thing: for every action there's a reaction. So somehow it doesn't always work that way.
Well, there'll always be maintenance on it because sand erodes horribly.
Yeah, and it's always dangerous. This always has danger. So. But anyway, hey, welcome everybody. We missed you last week. You missed us, hopefully, and we are back. We are back. I was, as David said, I think he might have mentioned, I was in California visiting my grandchildren, and my son and his wife and children.
And this time you didn't go to church with Marilyn Manson.
No.
Okay.
But always something, it's always something. I'm serious. So I went to one of the high points of the trip was I got to go to a soccer tournament for my little granddaughter.
Good.
Okay. She's 10. So I went to this big-time tournament, and Gavin Newsom's daughter plays on a competitive team, one of the teams she is competing against. But that wasn't the deal. The high point was that right next to us was an air base where they had an air show. Oh. And so during her game, the Thunderbirds are performing.
Oh, wow.
So we're sitting there watching her soccer game and the Thunderbirds performing above us. I mean,
how's that for a pregame ceremony?
And so we got a free air show with the Thunderbirds. But it was kind of tough because you're trying to watch the kids and every other say,
oh yeah, you can't hear a whistle,
and they're doing the
jeez,
flying overhead. I mean,
pay attention, kids.
Yeah, we were right there. I mean, we were right there.
Wow.
As, the kids were focused, but the parents were all watching the Thunderbirds above. And
because I'm like you, last Saturday, because we took a week off from the show, I'm at my grandson's flag football game right by the Jinx Airport, and it was just one private jet flying in, and all the kids are in. It's like 30 feet overhead because we're like right at the north end of the landing strip.
I have to say, though, it's interesting. Although I grew up part of my life on an Air Force base, actually a couple of times, and was really into the Air Force, I still have to say I'm partial to the Blue Angels.
Oh, the Navy.
The Navy ones, And I don't know if I ever told the story, and I don't know how I told myself don't get into personal stories, and I don't know if I told this story
part of
before.
the charm, Eddie.
I don't know if I ever told the story, but we went on a Christmas vacation to Pensacola, Florida, about 10 years ago. And we had this beach house that we rented, and I walked out on the balcony one morning, early in the morning, and I stepped out on the balcony, and it was lonesome. It was quiet, and all of a sudden I heard this, and I look up, down the way, and all of a sudden I look, and here comes a single blue angel by himself, and it was the craziest thing because it's like the guy saw me, and he saw me freaking out, of course, on a balcony because I was because I mean to get to see, because they're located at Pensacola Naval Air Station,
right? Yeah,
and but I never intended to see the Blue Angels.
Yeah,
it's something I would have wanted to see, but we didn't plan that. But here I am, just like blown away, and the guy gets a ways in front of me, and he flips to his side. I mean, literally, this is no joke. He was probably maybe 50 yards in front of me.
Wow.
Flips to his side, and he was only 100 feet above the water.
Wow.
Yeah, he was right there. I mean,
so the water's going crazy in the wake, right?
Yeah. And so he flips on his side, and honestly, he's looking over at me, and all of a sudden he turns straight up and shoots straight up in the air. It was like he gave me my own private little air show for a moment. And he flips to the side, and I'm jumping up and down, and I salute him. And and he shoots straight up in the air, and he's gone. God. I mean, it was like one of the highlights of my life.
Oh yeah.
I'll never,
because you're so close to it.
Yeah.
I mean, the power of it just over. Yeah.
If I were at an air show, I would not have been able to be that close.
No.
And to see that. But first of all, to hear him, and then all of a sudden for him, to flip like that, and then to do it right. And I was just like, whoa. It was like, thank you, Lord. And it was like God giving me my own personal. Because when I was a kid, they used to have a Blue Angels. They had their own television show.
I did not know.
Yeah, they had a show, the Blue Angels, every week. It was a weekly series. I think it was on CBS. And so I religiously watched this. I was probably 9 or 10 years old.
An Army brat, but you were watching the Navy show. Yeah,
I lived on an Army brat, living on an Air Force base, watching a Navy show. And I one of my dreams was to be a Blue Angel, of course. So anyway, but man, it was something. So deep down, I've always had this affinity for the Blue Angels. Yeah. Over the Thunderbirds, even though I lived on an Air Force base, and I don't know, that solid blue F4, well, it's the F-18 now that they fly, I think, actually, I think they're still doing 18s. I'm not sure if they went to F-22 yet. But anyway, I don't want to digress. Welcome again.
But if I could say something, I still have to side with the Air Force, mostly because my wife has two cousins that were in the Thunderbirds. Oh, really? Well, actually, it's her cousin, and then another one of her cousins married another pilot, right? That, they connected, and they stayed with them for a long time. They were they're, Colorado Springs Air Force Academy guys. But in all respect, I have to say, the Blue Angels say, we do everything the Air Force does, except we land on boats. Air Force can't say that.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
And take off on boats. Short runways,
So anyway, but anyway, got to see the Thunderbirds there perform and my grandkids. So anyway, but it's time for some news.
Big show, yes.
Beep, 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 beep.
Yep. Hey, real quick, I want to say, folks, please share this on Facebook if you're watching us live. Alto, good morning to you too, sir. That's it.
I'm sure Alto missed us.
Yeah.
Couldn't wait. Hey, all right. Oh, by the way, I think I'm going to start with this. What's the deal with Katie Hobbs? Apparently, she's gone missing. And so they've appointed an interim governor of Arizona.
Have they?
Oh, you didn't know?
I didn't know it was official. I've just heard the rhetoric that Biden's coming to states or she takes off. Remember, what's that gal's name in Georgia, the Democrat who ran for governor?
Abrams.
Yeah. As soon as Biden came down there, she took off, and she was a candidate.
Right.
Nobody wants to be seen with Biden or Kamala Harris.
Yeah, but Katie Hobbs, no, this seems more serious than that. Nobody seems to know where she is or why she's gone. They can't seem to find her.
Maybe the FBI is ready to indict.
That would be interesting.
Let's start a rumor.
Yeah, but so now they're trying to figure out what's going on with her and what, but apparently they're saying that it's not permanent, that it's just temporary.
But we don't know that.
But we don't know.
Yeah.
So, but they have the Secretary of State. I think they've made the Secretary of State the temporary governor of the state. So it's kind of Or do they have a lieutenant governor?
Well, that was the thing. I don't know. Yeah. Wait a minute. It's a good question because every state does things differently.
Yeah.
It's just like what you remember when we were talking about the Big 12 expanding, and are we going to get Arizona and Arizona State? Mm-hmm. Evidently, there's one board of regents over both of them. Right. It's the same people run both schools. Yeah. And so every state does things a little differently. But yeah, I don't remember if there was a race for lieutenant governor.
Yeah, here.
I think there is.
It says Katie Hobbs, according to Fox News, Katie Hobbs disappeared. She didn't. This is where she was. Let's see what this says. Where was she? So maybe you're right. Maybe she was just hiding from Joe Biden. Fox News stirred up conspiracy theories online Thursday with a report about State Treasurer Kimberly Yee being named acting governor after the conservative cable news network called mysterious disappearance. The erroneous news report later changed by Fox following false rumor that went viral. Mm-hmm. They didn't attempt to explain why it called Hobbs' temporary absence from the state a disappearance. Seeking comment from Fox wasn't immediately returned. Boy, Fox is really stepping in it. They're just making these stories up or not checking them out. Hobbs didn't disappear. She was in Washington, D.C. on Wednesday for a meeting about border issues with Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas. That's what they're saying. So, and she had been in a week-long meeting in Taiwan to meet with Joe Biden, who arrived. She flew back to the state to meet with Joe Biden, who arrived Wednesday night for a visit.
I don't think she did any public events with him, though.
Right.
And this is a problem. But you know what, Eddie? Let's be a little bit humble here, because remember Father's Day weekend here? We had a terrible, terrible storms come through. Is that... Are you playing something?
Oh,
okay.
Is that me?
I think it is, yeah. Your laptop.
Oh, yeah.
But
I see what it is.
Remember, all of a sudden, Greg Treat finds out through the media that he's the acting governor. Mm-hmm. Because Pinnell and Stitt are both gone, but evidently nobody in the state knows this.
Right.
And I can give Pinnell a little bit of slack here because... he doesn't have public housing. He doesn't have state paid for security like Stitt was with the governor's mansion. Right. Pinnell, I think he still lives in his Tulsa home because he's not paid any housing, like the governor is.
Right. Yeah, he's neighbors actually with one of my clients.
Yeah.
And she's always talking about Matt.
Yeah. So... Anyway.
Well, so that ends that mystery. So Katie Hobbs is not actually missing.
Yeah, but she didn't prioritize being at public events with Biden, and that's not unprecedented, because Abrams did the same thing.
Stacey Abrams,
in Georgia. Nobody wants to be seen with Biden or Harris. Yeah,
Yeah, and. Which brings me to the whole election coming up. Biden is losing ground quickly.
Yeah.
I think Trump is up, last I saw, anywhere from 8 to 15 points, depending on which poll you're looking at. It's
You mean
an
a
average
general election?
Yeah, the general election.
Right.
When it's Trump versus Biden.
Yeah.
I think it's an average like 10 point.
So ABC News, along with Washington Post, commissioned a poll.
Right.
ABC News announced it as a Trump 9-point lead over Biden. Right. Washington Post called it a 10-point lead. Right. Same poll.
Yeah.
But they can't even get their...
No, I know. That's why I said you have some polls where Trump is as far as 15, and then some still have it closer.
Okay.
But it's an average around the 9-10 point lead. Let's just put it this way. Trump has a pretty good lead on Biden right now.
Yeah.
Currently.
No, some people are suspicious that maybe this is more an effort to force Biden out so they can put like a Gavin or a Michelle Obama or a Hillary Clinton.
I think for a change, they're actually being honest. Because, they usually don't tell you what the true polling data says. Usually they would cover up. They would say that Biden has a 1 or 2 point lead when they're really behind.
Yeah.
But now, I agree with you. They really don't want Biden to run because they believe he will lose. And I don't think they have faith enough that they can cheat enough anymore to pull it off. So they're trying to get him out.
Yeah. Now, evidently, Bobby Kennedy Jr. is announcing he's going independent.
Right. He's announcing his independence.
And he's over in Ukraine. Warren's next step is for Biden to put military advisors in Ukraine. I bet you they're already there.
Yeah.
And he says, and this is his quote, have they forgotten Vietnam?
Yeah.
How we got drug into that?
Yeah, they're bent on getting us totally enmeshed in it.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're bent on starting World War III.
And meanwhile, Ukraine, it couldn't be doing worse for public relations, at least with conservatives in America, with some of their. You had one to tell us about that.
Well, I don't know why the Congress isn't stepping up, or the Republicans stepping up and saying somebody's got to put a stop to this. That's all we have to do. Our Republicans in Congress need to just say no.
Yeah. Half of the Republicans voted this week for more funding, including 3 of Oklahoma's 5 members of Congress. Right. And I want to salute Kevin Hearn and Josh Brakeen for holding the line, voting no. But Cole, Lucas, and Bice all voted even more money. Yeah.
And you know why?
No. I mean, what's your story? The military industrial complex.
Yep.
Yes,
that's what it is. I cannot understand. Well, I can understand, but how can you get to the point where your money is so important that you're willing to risk the lives of your children and grandchildren?
Yeah,
because you're just dooming.
Yeah.
You're dooming your future generation. Yeah. It's like you just don't care.
Yeah.
It's like you don't care.
You look at what have we done in the last our last 3 congressmen from Tulsa all became lobbyists. Largent for the cell phone industry, and then Sullivan for the pharmaceuticals industry, and now Bridenstine for the industrial military complex, aerospace. And, I'm sorry, I don't have much respect for that from any of you.
I agree.
Yeah.
So, I totally agree.
They went for the money.
Yeah. And I know people just think these people hung the moon, where some of them went for hung the moon, but no, I agree. And it's funny how I could kind of see it from the other side. People didn't understand why I sometimes was not a fan of these people, but I could see it on the front end before they even got in the office.
Yeah, you were kind of wet blanket at times, Eddie, on the radio.
Yeah, but see, I don't know if I should. All right. Let's take an example. Oh, I won't name names, but I'll give an example.
Mm-hmm.
Look at student loan debt. Okay. When a person has a $380,000 student loan debt, and his competitor and his wife have an $800,000 student loan debt,
Yeah.
and they basically don't have a job that will ever get rid of that student loan debt. They're running for office for more reasons than to serve the people.
Yeah.
Because they need to get rid of that student loan debt and make some money. That is...
and all of a sudden, Biden's trying every which way he can to basically wipe out student loan debt.
Yeah.
Wow.
But so when you see somebody running for office and you look in their background, one of the things to check out is what is their debt situation.
Okay. But Eddie, you know, you're about 10 years above me on this. So you actually had to sign up for the draft while there was a draft, right?
Right.
Okay. By the time I had to register in order to get grants to go to college, they made that contingent. But there was no actual draft, right? We, at that time, decided we were going to basically try to be an all-volunteer army, enlisted, you know. But Eddie, imagine if you'd finished up in school and then got drafted. Should you get any kind of help with your student loan for actually serving in the military?
Yes, I believe in the GI Bill. I believe that is a legit thing.
Okay.
Okay. But when you have this new thing they came out with where, you know, you can teach in an at-risk school.
Yeah, the social programs, yeah.
Right. And the people, you don't even have to, you know, had a major that related to anything you're teaching.
Right.
Like you can be a major in basket weaving or...
Right. But I want to say this because I will name names.
Okay.
Take, for instance, Jim Bridenstine. Went to Rice on ROTC, okay, and then began his career in the reserve, right? And which somewhat hampers your career opportunities because you get called up at different times, right? And you know, employers like, you know, wait a minute, I'm going to lose you at least 1 month or 1 weekend a month and things like that. But they're doing it for as part of our national security. Whereas Bridenstine's opponent, which had twice the student debt between him and his spouse, they weren't actively serving in a national defense volunteer role.
Right. There's only one thing though. If he went to Rice in ROTC, then he would have gotten some military, like ROTC pays for your school.
There, you know, your last 2 years, junior, senior, your first 2 years.
Okay, okay, right. Then he went to, I don't know if you know, he went to Columbia.
Oh, and by the way, no, they pay part of your last 2 years. They don't take the full. You don't get a full scholarship.
Okay, that's possible. Yeah. But then you also have GI Bill though.
For ROTC?
If you're in the military, period. Military has GI Bill.
GI Bill is usually a benefit after you finish your active duty service.
Yeah, that's true. But
he was never really...
Yeah, but I think there should be a way. I'm not sure exactly how it all works, but there should be a way, I think, to get some of that deferred or whatever.
Yeah, and I'm just saying, morally, there is at least some sympathy for helping the guy who's actually says, I will help protect the country, especially during a time of war.
Yeah, oh yeah, no, sure, I agree with that. No, but what I'm saying is still, what is your real motivation?
Yeah, I get that.
See, that's what I'm saying. What is your motivation to serve? Is it to serve or is it to get your debts paid?
I understand.
Like when I've got this, if I've got a $400,000 debt hanging over my head, it's easier for me to capitulate to certain interests than not.
Right.
That's all I'm saying.
Right. And if you choose to go to a private university like Rice or some whereas you
Columbia or Cornell, I can't remember which.
Whereas you could have got a lot cheaper at Oklahoma State.
Yeah.
You know, should we pay for the exorbitant that you chose to commit yourself to?
Yeah.
So, yeah, but I think there should be some set amount that's considered. So I just want to say, you know, in defense to Bridenstine, I have a little more sympathy for a guy who goes there to get a degree, which he then takes to military active duty and stuff, than I do somebody just wants to be a lawyer and his wife be a lawyer. You know.
Yeah, but see, the benefits of doing the military versus going the private route, in the end, your military service, for example, you're still in the reserves after you get out.
Usually are, yeah.
Right. So what that means, once he reaches a certain age, he will get the benefits.
Yeah, he will, yeah.
Right. And there's certain other benefits, you know.
That's a good point, because it's not like we aren't doing anything for him.
Right, right, exactly.
Yeah.
So, you know, if you still remain active or inactive reserves throughout, you can still get those benefits.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not, you know, I know Jim, we're friends and all that. I just always try to play straight.
Exactly.
I don't want to play any favorites for my friends or my family even.
Eddie, you got to call balls and strike the same regardless
Exactly.
who's pitching.
I have a son.
Yeah.
You know, he's a lieutenant.
Coast Guard.
Lieutenant commander right now.
Yeah.
And I do the same with him. You know, any debt he has to, you know, if he didn't earn it, if he didn't, you know, I went to school, you know, 4 years.
Yep.
My parents saved up. He was a sergeant in the Army. My mother didn't work. And they paid every penny of my 4 years to go to school. Yeah. I owe that to them, you know. Yeah. So I never got a scholarship, not a penny.
Yeah, there weren't the kind of Pell Grants back then.
No Pell Grants, nothing. No student aid, nothing. It was just.
See, Pell Grants kind of came in just as I was getting in high school.
Yeah.
You know, before that. But I do want to say one more thing on that, and this is the Oklahoma legislature. What you do as a veteran to serve and protect your nation is a commitment that the federal government and you have. I don't believe our state government should be given any handouts for those who are serving in the federal Army. And I'm seeing too much of this going on with our legislature, particularly with a bunch of veterans serving.
Right.
They're basically voting for things that they and their buddies are going to be the recipients.
Yeah, yeah. Now, see, in Jim's case, this is something I don't agree with. So for example, why are you giving money to somebody after they serve and not giving money before they serve? In other words, if I go to college and pay my way, and then you enter the military from the college that you recruited me out of for my skill or whatever I offer, but you're not going to pay for me to get there to donate my service. But after I serve, now you're going to.
Well,
I mean, you know,
unless it was part of the contract by which you chose.
No, I understand that. But why would you make a contract that way? In other words, why are you offering a contract to somebody to get out to go to school instead of the contract to the person that's in school to go? Let's put it this way. It would be, take the NFL, okay? It would be like paying somebody, which we do basically, you know, you're paying high school guys to go to play football. But it would be like paying the guys, it's kind of hard to say, paying them after they've already played football.
So let's break this down, hey. For an enlisted man.
Right.
he gets his benefits largely after he serves,
Right.
providing he honorably serves.
Right. Oh, yeah. Well, sure.
And he's still alive to collect the benefits, right? So you get from that guy who signs up first what you want to, and then you offer him. In negotiating, that's a good deal if you can get what you want first.
Yeah, I'll give you a great example. My dad, he did 26 years in the Army.
Yeah.
Okay. He got out of the Army, went to work for the VA, and he also went to college. He was getting his retirement. He was getting his payment. He was getting unemployment.
Wow.
Yeah, because he didn't have a job when he first got out of the military. So he got unemployment until and he was getting GI Bill because he was taking classes at University of Texas at El Paso.
Okay, but that unemployment was a temporary thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, gotcha. Okay.
But so he was getting paid more than he was making when he was in the Army, not working.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
And so there was really no incentive for him to go get a job. And he was going to school for something he would never need. Because when he had he started and
I know you're 50-some years old.
Right, but what's weird is he was getting that employment because he wasn't full-time at it was the post office, but he wasn't hired yet. He was like, it was something weird. Somehow he was collecting like 3 checks.
Right.
And it was the weirdest thing and he said, yeah, this is the craziest thing I've ever seen. He didn't even understand it, but they
Eddie,
were sending him all these checks.
Back then, you guys were living on peanuts while he was serving. It's horrible.
Well, yeah, in the beginning, yeah.
It is.
But Dave, forget it.
Okay.
I don't want to hear that. See, I'm not going to play that game because it falls into that whole welfare mentality. Listen, yes, but we were happy.
I get that.
We did it.
I get that.
My mother, like my dad said, my mother could handle money. So she was so tight. She could squeeze a nickel until the Indian rode the buffalo.
No, I wasn't going where you think I'm going. What I'm saying is the negotiators on behalf of the military structured it where they got their thing, and your dad had this utopia, which is going to come someday.
You're not listening to me.
Okay.
It doesn't matter. See, you're always thinking up here from the government point of view. I'm thinking down here. At the person, okay? When you start falling into the government mentality, it changes your mentality. That's what's wrong. That's what's wrong with America today, I think.
Okay. Well, where I was going, I had mentioned the first part, and then you elaborate on it. With the enlisted man, they normally promise them the benefits kind of on the backside.
Right.
Whereas the officers, and the training they get for what they do in the military provides that specialist school, right after basic.
Right.
But the officers, they want them college educated before they start.
Right.
So in order to get that, it's kind of supply and demand. They almost have to offer something.
Yeah, so I'm trying to see. That's what I'm trying to figure out in the case of Bridenstine. We should ask Jim. We should just get him in it, if he will. How did he become an ensign in the Navy, a pilot, an aviator? Did he get an ROTC or did he do OTS, Officer Training School?
I'm pretty sure it was Rice ROTC.
Okay, so if he had ROTC at Rice, then the ROTC should have helped him pay through his school.
I expect they did.
Right.
Some, but they don't give you full right.
Sure.
Not even the last
Sure,
years.
and then usually what they do, because I know in my son's case, with the Coast Guard, after the academy, he could have gone to, I don't know if he could have done this or not, but they usually go to MIT or Harvard or Yale. I mean, that's Penn, That's where they send their people.
I think that's more of a Coast Guard thing.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So, but they'll send you to these because some of his classmates ended up going to those places,
Yeah.
And nautical engineering and weather and all this kind of stuff. But he didn't do that. But anyway, but they will pay for it.
Yeah.
And so that's what I'm trying to figure out, how you end up with a debt.
Yeah, I agree.
With that, and now, and he served honorably and continued to serve even while he was in office. He was still a reservist, because I remember he was always one rank above my son as they were moving along. He would always be.
Here's another thing, Eddie. Back when you were at Tech, Texas Tech, they didn't have the Pell Grant so much, but boy, they had student loans with almost like a negative interest rate. I mean, and so I knew of families that mom and dad said, you're getting a student loan, and loan terms were cheaper than passbook savings, and they would get that loan, max amount, put it in their savings or a CD, and they were making money, and so you would max out those student loans.
And then pay it back.
And then, what did you call it, insurance self-banking?
Right. Yeah, personal banking.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah, so there was that.
I guess we never knew. That's something only white people know.
So
they didn't let us know. They didn't tell us about that. That was personal information. Yeah. I didn't know about that because I never had one student loan. I didn't know.
And I think it was a short period of time. I think the government figured out.
Yeah, somebody figured out. Yeah, but no, I mean, these are the things that I don't even know how we got into that discussion, but anyway, man, we got to get out of it on that. Hey, let's move on. I think we were talking about Katie Hobbs for some reason. We ended up in this deal.
That's the thing, folks. So, when you go down rabbit trail so far, you don't remember what path you were on.
We're like Alice in Wonderland on it.
Yep.
Hey, so Katie Hobbs, mystery is solved. She wasn't missing. She was just in D.C. and didn't tell anybody. She was trying to avoid public identification with
I think that's all it was.
Our president.
Either that or she was getting cosmetic surgery, doesn't want to tell us.
Oh, that'll be funny. Yeah. Hey, one of the big events of this week was the debate. We have to talk about the debate. Okay.
The presidential.
Very poorly watched. I happened to tune in for just a moment and just to see, I think I watched literally, if you'd put an egg timer on, less than the time for the egg timer to go off. And what I saw, oh man, it was bad. What I tuned in for was when Nikki Haley was going after Vivek.
Again.
Yeah. And which tells me that she saw Vivek as the threat.
Yeah, he's the whipping boy for Trump. Whatever you got against Trump, go after Vivek.
Right, because Vivek is not going against Trump.
Right.
But what I saw, particularly, it's weird. You can't see it so much when you look her straight on. But when she was turned to the side, I literally saw a hag.
Yeah.
Really. I mean, just
look at that face. When you vote for that face,
really, that is the truth. That is really. She looked. I mean, she reminded me of a witch.
Are you saying like CNN did, like John Lemon, that she's past her prime?
No. I think in her prime she was probably that way. I don't think there was any prime to it.
These are all selfish people. Most politicians are they're narcissists.
But even the comment she made, it was funny because I would have taken her comment. In fact, I put it on Facebook. She said, the more I listen to you, the dumber I feel. And I said, well, considering that Vivek has a bachelor's from Harvard and a bachelor's in biology and a jurisprudence from Yale.
Wow. Yeah. He went to law school at Yale?
Yeah.
With a biology undergrad?
Yeah.
That's kind of odd path.
I know, but it shows how his mind, his left and right
No
brain.
Kidding.
Yeah. So anyway, but considering that he has the undergrad in biology from Harvard and the Juris Doctorate from Yale.
Yeah.
And you have a bachelor from Clemson. No, from University of South Carolina.
State college.
Yeah, State College in accounting. I can see why you would feel like that.
Yeah.
Dumber every moment you hear him speak. And so, anyway, it just, you're not even in the same ballpark.
Oh, yeah.
And so she has a nerve enough to say that. And I'm surprised nobody has brought that up.
Yeah.
Because, yes, you are dumb compared to him.
Well, if you can't follow his depth of his reasoning, yeah, you probably are dumb.
Well, she said it. I feel dumber every time I hear you speak. I mean, for her to say that, it's like you just indicted yourself.
Yep. Yep.
And made a dumb statement that sadly nobody else has picked up on.
Yeah.
And that was her strategy to try to attack, go after Vivek. Yeah. And because DeSantis, she knows, which everybody else should know it by now, he's on a downward slope.
Yeah, he is.
He's spiraling down. He's down at 10%.
Losing support every day.
He's losing support all day. His team has flaked on him and everything. And things are going down. And so she thinks she's rising, and Vivek is the guy that she needs to go after. So anyway, but I wanted to get into the debate in general. It was done by Fox Business, which I thought might be a good thing, but then they turned around and it turned out to be worse than Fox because they had Stuart Varney, who is from Fox, but then they bring in Dana Perino from the big Fox, or Fox News Channel instead of Fox Business.
Yep.
And then they bring in, I don't know, it's Ilia Calderon.
Okay.
From Univision. Okay. So they bring in Ilia, who in Univision, which is basically Democrat Central, Democrat Deportes, you might as well say.
Yep.
The news division of the Spanish TV.
Yep.
And it just turned into, all she was talking about was immigration. All she's concerned about, what are you going to do about making these illegal immigrants legal? That was what was on her mind. I mean, she was a one-trick pony, basically, just trying to legalize these great people that we need to bring into our country and all this. I mean, even what's so crazy about it, even Hispanics are not in favor of illegal immigration.
Yep.
Because it's their neighborhoods that are being inundated with these people. And now we're at the point where it's not even majority Hispanics coming into the country. It's Africans and Eastern Europeans and East Asians that are coming into the country.
Yeah.
They're fighting Ukrainians and Indians and Chinese and Africans. I mean, it's not just people from Central and South America, these so-called needy countries that are coming into our country. They're having to fight these other people who are coming in for their thing. So, but that's what's going on. So, but here's the worst thing I just found out yesterday. I just mentioned it to you before we went on the air about Dana Perino. That is, there's video earlier this month. Dana Perino, she also hosted a panel at a Clinton Foundation gala earlier this month.
She helped put on.
She was on the panel.
Oh, okay.
At the Clinton Foundation.
Wow. And
she introduced it. She introduced the amazing Hillary Clinton. Quote. That was what she said.
Amazing.
Amazing Hillary Clinton. And then Hillary came up and she gave her an award. She gave Hillary an award.
Yep.
I mean, it's just amazing. These people, Fox is just every day exposing itself.
Wow.
And so Stuart Varney, who is a total DeSantis, Varney, it's more or less he's an anti-Trumper.
What happened to him? He wasn't always that way, was he?
Varney is old school English gentleman.
Oh, God. Oh.
That's what it is.
Oh.
And for him, Trump is uncouth.
Yep.
So he
The respectability bunch, yes.
right. Trump does not play by the rules.
Wow.
So Varney can't handle that. And so he needs someone that's respectable. So Varney is 100% in the DeSantis camp. DeSantis is respectable. That's why he would prefer Ron DeSantis. And you should see him in the mornings because it's so funny. He has these guests on, and one after another one, they're Trump, and you watch his face, and he's just kind of he keeps hoping they're going to dump Trump, but they won't do it. I mean, every one of them, they're all the business people, all of the people on Fox Business in the morning with Varney. Mm-hmm. And see, if Fox Business really wanted to do it right, if Fox Business really wanted to have this as a Fox Business panel for the debate, they would have had Maria Bartiromo, Liz McDonald, and then one of Charles. Really, if they'd have had Charles, I can't think of the black down there, they'd have had Charles on there. Those should have been the three that best people to have interview or to do the panel. That would have been a legitimate Fox Business channel panel. Yeah, because they would have asked the questions and they would have nailed these guys, and I think you would have had a great Republican debate. It would have been a legitimate Republican debate. But the panel they had on there, it was a mess. It was a mess.
So here's where I'm at on. When I look at journalism that I can respect, I think of guys like Tim Russert. Tim Russert, when he had somebody on, he asked them the tough questions. He didn't go after their opponent and just throw softballs to help go after somebody. No, you challenge everybody. You don't do cheap shots, but you challenge everybody. And if they would have asked these people some tough questions that probably would have come from, hey, here's how Trump would respond to what you say, and then kind of throw the Trump, nobody was going to, echo the Trump position.
Right.
Because, they just don't want him. It's just, to me, this isn't even journalism anymore.
No, and honestly, the whole panel, everybody up there really has no business being there.
Yep.
I mean, there shouldn't even be a Republican debate. There should not be. It should be Trump-Biden anyway, by default. Why? I cannot say enough how disappointed and how irked I am at the fact that Republicans cannot understand how to unify behind one person.
Yeah.
I keep going back to our last fall's elections. Fetterman, Katie Hobbs, Warnock. I was calling him Warnock.
Yeah.
Warnock. None of our candidates in any of those elections were more flawed or less capable than those three right there.
Yeah.
Those are three of the most flawed candidates, most incapable people of leading a state than those three guys. Three, and a young lady. Yet, you did not hear one Democrat say one negative word about any of those.
Yeah.
Yet, in every case in Arizona, Kerry Lake, Dr.
Oz.
Oz, and Herschel Walker in Georgia. Republican after Republican after Republican got on, telling us about how horrible they were.
Yeah, it was even worse than that because McConnell and who's it? Scott, the one from Florida, I think, who's running the Senate Republican campaign fund, actually pulled money out of those Trump-aligned Senate candidates. It wouldn't help them.
No, okay, that was the other way around. He was trying to help the Trump-aligned ones. It was McConnell that was.
That's right. McConnell was the one. That's right. Yeah, you're right. Because that.
I know who you mean. He was the senator, the former governor. He was the former governor of Florida. He was behind the Trump ones.
Yes.
But McConnell was fighting him.
And McConnell was fighting because it was McConnell.
And what's her name? The head of the party. The head of the Republican National Committee. I want to say Ronald McDonald.
Yeah. Ronald McDaniel. Romney.
Romney.
Mitt Romney's niece, so you guys know.
She decided to drop the Romney off of her so people didn't identify her. But they did not put their support behind those people like they should. And that's, exactly.
But here's what I'm getting at with that. Mitch would rather lose the Senate and stay leader of the Republicans.
Yeah.
Because Scott actually did challenge him but lost.
Right.
For the Republican
That's
leader.
what this ended up becoming. You're exactly right. So it ended up, instead of being between the Democrat and Republican challengers here, it ended up becoming between Mitch McConnell and Scott. Is it Scott? What is it?
Yeah, it's not Tim Scott. It's the other.
Yeah. Anyway, the senator from Florida. It ended up becoming a fight between these guys.
Yeah.
And it's shameful. It's shameful that our party is so...
Rick Scott,
thank you. Yeah. That it's shameful that our party is that petty. It's ridiculous.
And the same thing's happening, just so you know, in the Oklahoma legislature in the Senate. It's that close.
Oh, it's probably worse.
Yeah, Nathan Dahm actually came close within a couple of seats of taking Greg Treat out. And this is what goes on. It's all about their fiefdom, and said rather, in Mitch McConnell's case, let that happen. And by the way, Mitch McConnell, he's had some strokes.
Yeah.
They may not want to call it strokes, but in most of our media is covering it up.
Well, here's a clue that Mitch McConnell really needs to go. When Biden is singing his praises and taking up for him.
Yeah.
That should tell you something.
Yeah. Here's another related thing. Remember a few months ago I said, watch the Republican convention in Utah coming up this year, because that's how Mike Lee got in, is he defeated, because their party decided to select a nominee by convention rather than primary. And I said, Mitt Romney is in for a challenge. Guess what he announced?
He's not running.
He's not going to run.
Right.
He knows what's going to happen here to him. And so now, you've got another guy already set to take on, who is a Trump-backed Republican there in Utah. So we already won one, folks, for next year.
Yeah, Mitt knows. He saw the writing on the wall. He's following the steps of our Wyoming senator. Cheney? Liz Cheney.
Well, yeah, she was a congresswoman, but so she lost. But she actually tried to run and took a lot of outside money and still couldn't win. Right. And and by the way, speaking of Wyoming actual senator, Barrasso, yeah. My nephew actually ran against him.
Really?
Last time. Yeah, he called me up. He says, I'm running. And Barrasso would never get in a debate, but my nephew was the first to announce. And then a few other more funded and more qualified, I'd say, candidates. Yeah. But it just, the guts of somebody going first, I have to commend my nephew.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Barrasso's a pretty good guy, though. He's The ones that I don't understand. There's a couple. Not Ken Paxton. What's the guy from Texas? What are the senators from Texas?
Cornyn.
Cornyn.
And then, of course, you got Cruz.
Yeah, Cornyn is the one.
Oh, Cornyn.
Cornyn. I don't understand that. I mean, have they always been that way? Have they been bought out? What?
Oh,
how do these people?
Well, let's talk about this.
Thank you.
There was an impeachment of.
Oh no!
AG.
Yeah. But let's back up. I still want to find out what happened. Was Cornyn always basically a rhino?
Yeah, this is the narrative I want to say.
Okay.
Because they said by that impeachment, because you remember who Ken Paxton defeated was a Bush, Prescott. And they said this is the final nail in the coffin of the Bush wing of the Texas Republican Party. But I think with Cornyn, I think you've got that same bunch, the Karl Rove Bush wing of that party. And it's been a tug of war there. And it's largely hurt the Texas Republicans because of the infighting that's going on there.
Oh, it's bad.
Yeah. Because I remember when Cruz ran, he was very much an outsider, and the Bush people already had their guy, and somehow Cruz got it to a run-up, but he was way behind. And a bunch of us with the Santorum campaign all got behind Cruz, and it was an upset victory in the runoff of that. That was in 2012. That was 11 years ago. But this is that battle between the grassroots and the Bush Republicans.
What's the update on Ken Paxton?
He's free and clear.
Good.
Every vote, because you need, what is it, like 2/3 vote to remove. Mm-hmm. They couldn't even get majority vote on it. And then Dan Patrick, the lieutenant governor who presided by their constitution, he went after, in his final remarks before he adjourned, went after the Speaker of the House. It was just cutting cold. So
Dan's a good guy.
Yeah,
Dan,
never again. But and he did it so diplomatically. But by the time he was done, you had been cut up and sliced and diced. And so the Speaker of the House is suffering big time over that.
Well, good.
Yeah,
he should.
So anyway, this is the kind of things going on within the party for the fight for the vision. And here's the thing: even if you don't like Trump, how can you not like the public policy of the Trump administration?
Oh, yeah. I mean, yeah.
Unless you're for abortion. I can't think of too much else. If you're a Republican, now I understand if you're a leftist to that, but if you're a Republican, our finest years economically, for employment. We cut taxes. I remember AT&T, which is a very leftist corporation. As soon as they cut taxes, AT&T gave a $1,000 raise to every employee. So even the liberals were benefiting. And yeah, it's just, it's a sad deal what's going on. It's like some people are just dead set on taking down the United States.
Yeah, it's weird. It is weird that we have a nation that is so against itself.
Yeah.
I mean, I've never seen anything like it.
Mm-hmm.
Why are people so against their own nation? And it's not. It's funny. It's not like it's the people, the powerless. It's like the people in power that are against it. The powerless really don't care. They're just busy. Just gimme. Philadelphia right now is in a huge crisis because with the DA Krasner there, with basically the liberal laws right there, they're just starting to rob. Although the police have cracked down, there's this story about. Are you familiar with this? There's this TikToker or this what do you call it? Not Facebook. What do they call them?
Instagram?
Yeah. Yeah, but just a celebrity on.
Yeah, an influencer.
Oh yeah. It's this black girl. But anyway, she was out there in front of it, telling people, "Come on, get this stuff," and she was just doing that. Well, they arrested her because she was out in front inciting all of this, and she can't believe that they arrested her
For inciting what?
People to break in and rob.
Oh, well,
rob
yeah, that's
these
a
stores.
crime. Inciting, crimes.
Yeah, she's telling people, come on, this is what's going on, come on, do this, let's get this, and this is.
Right.
And so now she's been arrested.
Yeah.
And then she's crying, and then they interviewed her grandmother. And her grandmother says, yeah, they should arrest her. Even her grandmother says that she wasn't raised like that. She shouldn't be doing that. And so it made the news. But, yeah, I mean, just stupid.
But we should have arrested Biden at the presidential debate back in 20 when he said, folks need to rush the border. We need to surge the border. There needs to be that's criminal.
What's her name? Harris.
Yeah.
Kamala. When she was talking about the rioters in all the cities on the George Floyd thing, talking about that they have every right to riot.
Yeah.
And to basically destroy the cities and everything, that was okay.
And she was attorney general.
Yeah, and she's running as vice president.
Yeah.
But Trump is the one that we're going to, try to put in jail for inciting January 6th,
Eddie, I think this is spiritual.
Oh, Dave, for sure.
Yeah.
Sure. We know that's true.
Yeah, but I mean, we're trying to, why would they do this? And let's just go with it. When you hate your country, I look at the epistles, and as a Christian, you're supposed to be praying for your leaders. And Paul doesn't really define it. At one place he says kings, but then he says all who are in authority, that we may lead a peaceable life. As a Christian, you should not be inciting overthrow without at least first trying to work with,
It's funny. I have my own take on that. If you look at that, I see it. Okay. The United States is different. Okay. What is that, 1 Timothy 2?
Yeah, the king thing.
2:2.
Yeah.
Right. But see, we don't have a king.
Yeah.
See, we're actually inverted.
Right.
Right. So the people rule. And the authority is given from, by, and for the people. So people are always saying that we need to obey everything, the president and everything. But no, we need to obey the rule of it's the rule of the people. It should be the rule of the people. If our leader is not obeying the rule of the people, then the leader is wrong. Okay. Now, as far as the people who rule, giving the authority to the police, to the military, on that, yes, you obey the police. Okay. Because that is who the people who set in authority over cities, over counties, over everything.
Yeah.
But as far as one ruler like a king, the president he is not. He is not our king. He's just one of us as a manager. That's all he is a manager. He is supposed to manage what the people want him to manage. He is not a ruler. He is not an authority.
Yeah.
The authority is the people, and he is supposed to be submitted to the authority of the people.
Right.
That is how the United States is supposed to be set up. But we have gradually taken it and gone, squeezed it the other way around.
Well, yeah.
Does that make sense?
It does, but yet we delegate authority over to these offices. But it's by delegation.
Yes, that's true. But is that a true spiritual right? In other words, do we have a right to delegate that authority to a man? In other words, for example, did the Germans have the right to delegate that authority to Hitler? The Russians had the right to delegate it to Stalin, to Mao, to Yi.
Let me clarify. I don't mean abdicate. When I say delegate, that means there's always an accountability back to those who delegated authority to you, so that you are always answerable back to the people who put you there. But when you bomb the German parliament and burn it down, that's a way to try to no longer be accountable. So, well, we can't call them together because there's no building. What I'm saying here is, and you see this happening with Biden and others, now they're using that term, our democracy.
Right.
They aren't referring to our republic.
Right.
Because a republic is what you institute when you make a covenant, a constitution.
Right. And
everybody agrees. This is our structure. They're not committed to that structure.
Exactly.
Now, that structure uses principles of democracy,
right,
of voting, but they're trying to take down the republic.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That's exactly what I'm getting at.
Right.
Right. They're trying to use the term democracy. But it's funny because every nation, think of every nation that has democracy in it or democratic in it, right? The DDR. Do you know what the DDR was? The Deutsche Democratic Republic.
Yeah, it was East Germany.
East Germany.
Yeah.
The KPRG. The
or
Korean.
they use the word peoples.
People, yeah. Well, in fact, the PPK or the DPRK. The Democratic People's Republic of China, the DK, whatever. Yeah. It's the Democratic People's Republic of Korea, right?
North Korea.
Yeah, right. Every one of these, everyone that has democratic in it, is not democratic.
They mask themselves as being the opposite of what they are.
Exactly. So this is where we're headed. That's what. Yeah. Anytime you hear democratic being used as the form of government, run.
Yeah.
It's exactly the opposite.
Yeah.
That's why if it's a republic, it's a whole...
Yeah. I have to tell you...
Now, the People's Republic is, then, you got a problem there, too. So...
I was talking to
the Democratic People's Republic. They're covering all their bases. It's a Democratic Republic.
One of our fellow Oklahoma political bloggers, Dr. Piper, we were having lunch one day at Republican Men's Club, and he had mentioned to us that he was taking some ongoing education class up at Hilldale, and Oz Guinness was in as a guest professor. It's from England. And Piper come in early one day. It was just him and Oz, and he says to him, well, I guess the Brexit vote is going on. Did you vote? He said, yeah, I sent in my ballot. And he said, well, what can we learn from this? And he says, Oz Guinness said, always vote for the covenant over the hierarchy. And he said, based on that, I am an Englander because we have a covenant, a Magna Carta. He says this giving off to some other government, some other entity.
Right.
He says this is losing your covenant. And it was really interesting to hear that perspective of why you don't want to undermine the republic because it represents the Constitution,
right? The
covenant we have.
Yeah. See. Our democracy, basically, what they're trying to do is say their democracy is based on their leadership, right?
Yeah.
Instead of our republic, which is the people. And so that's what we have to understand. When they're talking about our democracy, they're talking about the Democratic Party leadership. It's like the Politburo in Russia.
Yeah.
And people that don't understand how communism works. Let me just give you a quick. I didn't understand this either until I went to Germany back in the 80s. And I started meeting people from East Germany and people from Russia who lived under communism. And because I thought that, they killed all the Christians and you couldn't be a Christian. And they said, no, it's not like that. they kill you as a Christian if you're outwardly trying to convert people and doing that, and if you become a threat. But you weren't killed just for being a Christian. The only thing what would happen, and this is coming. This is where we are now. The way it worked is, you had to become a communist to go to university. You had to actually be a communist, join the party, be a party member,
Sure.
to get into the universities, to get any kind of good job. Now, if you weren't, then you became a laborer. You would stay at a lower level. You could be a street sweeper, a laborer in a factory, work in butcher shops, a baker, all these menial jobs, but you could never move into any type of position of power, police, fire, any bureaucratic government type of position. You would always just be a laborer.
Yeah.
And you couldn't live in a nice house or anything like that. That was the price you paid. So people would join the party just so that they could move up in the ladder and go to school, to get educated, all of these things. Well, that's essentially what's going to happen here, because they're basically at universities, they're squeezing Christianity, Christ, faith out of schools.
Yes.
And to get a job in the government, they're squeezing it out. The military,
Thank you. Huge.
All of these things, they're squeezing it out, and eventually, that is how they're trying to do it here. And once they do that, they will feel that they have won.
Yeah.
And that's basically how they do it. They don't have to overtly kill the Christians. They kill the idea of Christianity. They cause you essentially to rebel against your own faith in favor of your livelihood.
Yeah.
And that's the danger. And that's what I'm afraid that I'm seeing already, that we have too many Christians denying their faith or being afraid to stand up for their faith in the public arena because they're afraid of how it will affect them in their jobs, in their schools, in their daily life.
Yeah.
And that's the danger that we're facing.
Yeah, that spoils system, that if you're a member of the right party, you get all the perks.
Right.
And it's all based on your political ideology, and you have to have a creed. I think you're onto something there, Eddie, because even when the Apostle Paul was going throughout the Roman Empire and that, the Roman government really wasn't concerned about, people's belief. It was how it translates in the political realm.
Right.
Because politics is their god, and my son, when he was with YWAM in Istanbul and he's doing some street, evangelism and stuff, he got pulled in because he went into a neighborhood that was run by organized crime. And for a few hours, I guess I was kidnapped. They weren't concerned so much about his Christian beliefs as the fact of what it might do to society there in that where they controlled the society, because that was their neighborhood, this mob. And my daughter-in-law's birthday party, she had some friends over, and we had this one gal worked at the church with them that was an attorney in Russia. She went to University of Moscow and everything. She came here, committed Christian. She's been to my folks' home, but her dad was there, and I'm talking to him. He was a professor at the University of Moscow until Yeltsin overthrew the Soviet Union. He lost his job, became a cop. It's much like you're talking about, that spoil system. All of a sudden, it flipped on his ear. Yeltsin purged out the communists from all the nice jobs at the university. And so it worked both ways. I'm sure in East Germany, it's probably the same thing. They had to purge.
Yeah, because at that point, the communists, especially the leaders, they were hunted.
Yeah.
They became the enemy, and then you didn't want to be anybody to know you were one.
Yeah.
And, I often say this, what happened to all the communists when the curtain came down? Mm-hmm. Were they raptured because all of a sudden they disappeared?
Yeah.
No, they just disappeared into the environment. Mm-hmm. Many of them came to the U.S.
Yeah.
And many of them have infiltrated into our society.
Right.
Into our educational system, a lot of the professors, a lot into, I believe, into our bureaucracy. Mm-hmm. That's why I think 1989 is actually when the downfall of America really began to
escalate. Yeah.
Because I think so many of the communists came here, and that really started to escalate everything.
Right. But
because we let our guard down. We let our guard down. We don't have to worry about them anymore. Well, that's when we really had to worry, because that's when they started influencing us.
And this is where Ron Paul actually had a lot of influence on me, even though I was competing against him in 2012 for the presidential, is that the government needs to stay neutral on all these other things. And it shouldn't be a spoil system. It shouldn't matter what your ideology is. The government should be hiring the best. But, we've got people in the Republican Party and grassroots that are saying, no, we got to fight fire with fire. We got to become just as bad as them when it comes to purging based on ideology.
Define purge.
Well, if you're not a Republican, then you shouldn't be appointed federal judge or things like that. That needs to be illegal to use that kind of thing. Now, if it's an organization that is avowed to criminal activity, then that should be a litmus test. If you remember that, you shouldn't.
Yeah, well, this brings up something else. I'm glad you brought this up, because I'm figuring out, we have our topics, but our show is really more idea-based, I think.
Yeah.
But I got into a thing a little bit on Facebook. I don't know if it was yesterday or Thursday. It was discussing Vivek Ramaswamy. Mm-hmm. And it was a bunch of Christians discussing. And it was the same thing that I saw with Dr. Oz, Tulsi Gabbard.
Yeah.
The fact that Vivek apparently is, he's a Buddhist.
Okay.
No, I'm sorry, Hindu. He's from a Hindu family.
That would make more sense.
Right, Hindu. So I started looking up, but he's I can't remember, it's a certain type of Hindu. Mm-hmm. He's what do you call it? Basically, traditional Hinduism believes in a plethora of gods. Mm-hmm. Oh, that's right. He's a monotheistic Hindu.
Okay.
So in his thinking, there's only one God. Mm-hmm. And essentially, all the others are nothing more than angels.
Okay.
So, in a sense, it's no different from Judaism or Christianity. We believe in one God and there are angels.
Yeah.
I mean, in a sense, right? I mean, I'm not going to, let's don't get up.
Right.
Let's just go through the major
Keep
frame.
it simple here.
Keep it simple. He went to Catholic school.
Yeah.
That's where he went to, he was raised and went all from first grade through high school, went to Catholic school. Mm-hmm. But his family, and so I don't even know how they let him into Catholic school as a Hindu, but he went through Catholic school, so he understands the Christian religion probably as much as any of, or at least the Catholic religion as much as any other Catholic in it. I bet you he knows it better than Pelosi and Biden. But anyway, but you got all these people hung up on the fact that he's Hindu. Mm-hmm. So, oh no, I could never vote for him as for president. Tulsi Gabbard, she's a Buddhist. Mm-hmm. Oh, okay, but you don't have any problem voting for a carnal Catholic who
man who
believes
said, how many affairs and how many wives and how many divorces,
or how many or how many or how many abortions till the 13th month, which means a month after. That doesn't bother you, but he's a Christian. He can be president.
Yeah.
But I could never support a person who believes in the same values as I do.
Right.
And the rights of my values, to believe my values.
Yeah.
I can't vote for him, but I'm going to vote for the guy who is constantly bringing in laws against my values. That's what I don't understand.
Yeah.
How Christians can support someone.
Yeah, Joe Biden takes communion, don't you know?
Yet at the same time, he wants to shut down and arrest Christians for practicing certain aspects of their faith.
Right.
It just boggles the mind. What are you thinking or you're not thinking? You know what I mean? And these are the issues that we're facing, that you actually have people like that right now.
Right.
That are so closed-minded.
Yeah.
Or wrong thinking, that they're not thinking right.
Yeah, and see, Eddie, there are some battles that, okay, if these are the terms of the war, let's fight them. For instance, on election. Okay, if we're going to have ballot harvesting, they're on their side, we're going to do it on our side. I get that. But there are some battles you just don't join. You actually advocate the overthrow in illegality of it. Such as when I was working Phil Graham's campaign in 95, I remember talking to my employer, and he says, well, I can't support him. I said, why? He says, well, because of his wife. Well, Phil Graham was married to a woman of Asian.
So stupid.
And I said, what's wrong with her? He said, well, she doesn't look American. And so I said, well, what does American look like? Well, he couldn't answer what American looks like. He didn't want to answer.
Right.
So you just don't play that game. And the same thing with religion. We should never, ever have a state religion.
Right.
Okay, England has a state religion. How's that working out for him? Is King Charles really breaking out revival? I don't think he even believes in Christ as our Savior.
I agree.
So you don't, because who gets to decide which is the right Christian belief doctrine system? You don't want the government enforcing that.
Right. And then when you get there, is it a Catholic? Is it a Pentecostal? Is it a Baptist? Is it a Methodist? Is it a...
Yes, like Hindu. Are all Hindus the same? Well, are all Christians the same?
That's what I just said. Yeah. The Hindu, I just thought a Hindu was a Hindu. I didn't even know there's a monotheistic Hindu.
Eddie, it's like the purpose is that person who says all blacks look alike.
Yeah. All Hindus or Muslims think alike.
Yeah.
One of my good friends, I've got a good friend. He's a black Muslim. Mm-hmm. So I just assumed he's a staunch Republican. He is total, and I believe the guy loves the Lord, but he joined Islam years ago because he was so disenchanted with what he saw in the black church. Mm-hmm. Now I believe that he may be able to be brought back to, because he's not antagonistic towards Christianity. Mm-hmm. Like, I share the Lord with him. We share certain beliefs. He believes in one true God. We can unite on that.
Yes.
And he believes in Jesus Christ. It's just certain things in the Christian faith that he has issues. Usually, this is what's so funny, and I think everybody can agree with this. Usually people that have a problem with Christianity have a problem with Christians.
Yeah.
Not Christianity. Even Malcolm X, I remember reading his biography, and he says, the problem with Christianity has never been its founder or Christ. It's always been the followers.
Yes.
That's his profound statement. He says, I have no problem with the founder of Christianity.
Yeah.
Or talking about Jesus.
They believe he's a prophet.
Yeah. So he, he was disgruntled with the followers. I believe if he had been allowed to live, he would eventually, because he left the Nation of Islam and then ended up in traditional Islam, and he was seeking, and then he was murdered. But anyway, we've got to get to the point, as Jerry Falwell said, we're not electing a pastor. We're electing the President of the United States.
And here's the thing. This is where politics, and folks, you want to understand how to be successful in politics. You find coalitions. You look for, you be creative. Don't give up on your convictions. Hang on to them. But because a person doesn't agree with you one thing, should not disqualify them from being your ally in other things.
That's why Donald Trump, for example, was pro-choice into the 90s. As he told it, one of his good friends came into his office one day and shared with him about abortion and why they were against abortion, and made in an instant made him realize that abortion is wrong. He had never considered. He'd always just bought the line that, you know, it's a mother's right, the woman's right over her body. And then the time was right, and he saw it. He understood that this is a life. And since then, he's been pro-life. And I think he's becoming more and more pro-life as he's gone on. This is why I look at someone like Robert Kennedy Jr. Okay. I don't agree with him on everything. I probably maybe agree 50-50, if that. But I sure as heck agree more with him than I do with Joe Biden and every other Democrat out there on that side.
But
and I believe that Robert Kennedy Jr. can see more of our side and can be convinced more of our side, be brought more to our understanding than the others can.
Right.
And that's someone we can work with, and we need to start working with that rather than just no.
A lot of people who are activists in the Republican Party are really engaged in nothing more than a holy war. Okay? And it's a sectarian holy war, the worst kind. And Robert Kennedy and I agree on more principles of government than I do with some of these Christian Taliban that we got in the Republican Party. And, you know, I remember talking to one guy, says it was a Baptist. He said, I used to be a member of the Taliban wing of the Baptist convention. And, they, you know, if you weren't ideologically pure, then you were barred, you were blackballed on everything because you weren't pure enough. Let me say something about what Vivek said as a Hindu monotheist. As you know, Greek, religions, Greek mythology believed in, polytheistic. But there was one philosopher who's a stonecutter, actually, by trade, happened to not believe anymore in polytheism. He believed there's probably just one God. So to make his point, he went to Mars Hill one day and put a pedestal on there, empty pedestal, no statue of a god, put it on, and it says, to the unknown God. His name was Socrates. 500 years later, the Apostle Paul said, I see you have a pedestal for the unknown God. Let me make him known to you. And so that sermon was set up by Socrates 500 years earlier as somebody who was seeking the truth with a pure heart. And I want to say, you have to understand, the person seeking God with a pure heart, who maybe isn't as far or where you're at, isn't your enemy. He's still a pilgrim.
Yeah, I think, man, we're preaching again now. Think of Abraham. Right? Abraham came from Ur of the Chaldees, where they were basic idol worshipers. And God chose him for some reason and said, leave these people. I'm going to take you, and you're going to find me, and I'm going to set up a whole new belief system and I'm gonna make a people out of your people that are not a people. So for some reason, God chose that one guy to bring out of all of these people. He chose Noah out of all of those people. You know, he's always choosing someone. I've been, my wife and I have gotten into this Netflix show called Vikings Valhalla. It's really a great, I mean, it's a brutal show. It's, show, but it's really interesting. A lot of history that I didn't realize. I didn't know that England had a Viking king, Canute.
Okay.
Yeah, he was a Viking, and he came and took over England and was a king for many years. But what's interesting, though, is that the Christianity had come up in there, and so among the Vikings, there was a division of Christian Vikings and pagans.
Yeah.
And of course, Hollywood, but probably not totally bad, like with the Jesuits. The Christians in this tend to be the bad guys because they're very cruel, they're very brutal, and they do it in the name of Christ.
Like the Knights Templar in the Crusades.
Yeah. I mean, in every era, you have Christians that just either overdo it.
Zealots.
Or don't do it right.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or that show 1923, Yellowstone, but it's 1923. You know, you've got these priests and nuns, convent, and it's horrible what they did. They set up these Christian schools for the Indians, and the things they did, it's just horrible.
Yeah.
I mean, these are true stories, you know, that they beat the kids and were raping kids and doing all this stuff, you know. If I didn't know what's in man, the sin, and you know that we all have a sin nature, and anytime you expect too much of human nature and don't know how to check it, then you're asking for trouble.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
And when you're asking people to do things that our human nature is not created to do without having checks and balances, then you're asking for trouble.
Yeah.
And that's what the Church of Rome basically did.
You know what's the
You
most
set itself up for failure.
the most evil urge in mankind is the lust for power. And the thing is, Christians somehow think they're immune from it, when if they just look at themselves, I see it in the Republican Party activism all the time. People who oppose you because they see you as a threat. Not that you've done anything bad to them, but you stand in the way of them and more power. And so they got to take you down because they feel threatened by you. Not because of anything you did or anything you voiced of ill will, but they're on a hunt and lust for more power.
That's true.
And they don't see just how corrupted they are. And I see it in elected officials who, in order to get more power, will take away your liberty. And more laws chip away at liberty for the sake of more power for the state.
Yeah.
You know, we have laws of government convenience that make the citizens jump through hoops just to make it more convenient. You know, licenses you got to get, not that for, it's just so they can take it away, you know, whenever they want to. And this is a problem with mankind itself because we aren't supporting freedom. Bobby Kennedy Jr., I know, believes in the principles of liberty. He's an old-fashioned 60s Democrat who understands those things, and I find more in communion with him than I do many far right Republicans.
Yeah. You know, that is funny that he is more of a John F. Kennedy than John F. Kennedy's grandson.
Yeah.
Who hates him, apparently. I mean, John F. Kennedy's grandson, Caroline's son, hates Bobby Jr., which is weird.
Yeah, because once the Kennedys got power, they wanted to hang on to that power. And I'm sorry, but they're like the Bushes. Their days are over.
Yeah.
And there's no original thinking left in them. And so, you've got to ally with people. This is why, as much as I sought to defeat Ron Paul in 2012, I became one of his strongest supporters on the principle, the public policy of liberty. Liberty. It's so important. And too many Republicans have got caught up in playing the same game as the Democrats.
Oh, yeah. Maybe even worse.
Yeah.
Like I said, it's interesting that Democrats know how to coalesce around a candidate for the greater good of the party, which actually is the greater bad, but they will submit themselves. They are better at submission than the Republicans. It's crazy. Even you look at locally, the local party, state party. Everybody always got somebody wants to be in power, and nobody wants to submit to whoever the power may be. And it's a tough thing. I mean, how do you deal with that? How do you? Nobody wants to listen to so and so or so and so or so and so.
Well, it's to the point now where all the good candidates who actually could run a political party don't want to.
That's true.
And then the people who do step up to run usually are running for ulterior motives, and they don't often even last a term. I mean, John Bennett ran. I helped him run. I was his running mate, and I quickly found out he's not who I thought he was, and then I got leveraged out, and then within 8-9 months he was out, and I God, it was the worst mistake. I'm done picking kings because I'm horrible at it, and I mean, look, folks, I'm just going to say this real briefly. Kenny Bob Tapp, one of my Republican friends from out on the Panhandle, did a podcast on Facebook Live. Watch it. This is a developing story. Nathan Dahm is facing a lot of questions right now, and he's running the party. And I'm not going to accuse anything here, but Nathan Dahm has probably got some things he needs to communicate very well right now. Very well. Because there are things not being answered. Yeah, we should go ahead and get to some of that. Let me do one other thing. Colin Kaepernick is not finished, but he's still trying to come back. He's not getting any offers, but he has gotten in the NFL. But he's got an offer from a Canadian football team. But doesn't seem like he's really interested in playing in Canada. Which would be perfect for him because they'll line right up with his politics. I'd love to see him go after Justin Trudeau.
Well, yeah, exactly. And kneel for the Canadian national anthem.
Yeah, there you go.
Because the Canadians were as bad as Americans. So
yeah.
I don't know, but it's interesting. He won't go up there, though. I promise you he won't go
No, it's, all he's ever run. I mean, he had a good year. Didn't he lead to a Super Bowl victory one year? And I think everything fell apart.
With the 49ers. Yeah, that was his last year. That was the year before he let it get to his head, and he figured he could do whatever he wanted and kneel. That was the year before he started kneeling.
Yeah,
it's kind of like Chupa. I want to call him Chupa Cabre, but Chuba Hubbard.
Oh yeah, remember when he went after Mike Gundy? For wearing an OAN shirt?
Yeah, and then he didn't stop there. Remember, he went after, was it Prater? Mm-hmm. He went after somebody. Was it Prater that he went after? he went after somebody in Oklahoma City for something, and that was the last straw. After
And he's
that.
a Canadian. He ain't even an American citizen.
Right, exactly. And after that, though, then he decided he'd declare for the NFL, and you don't hear much from him. He's just another running back. But yeah, these guys, it's too bad. What else do you have? You have anything?
Yeah, there's just a few things. Oh, by the way, I'm just going to say this real quick. State Fair started this weekend. Did you know Tulsa County puts on the 5th biggest fair in the nation?
Really?
Big Oklahoma City. We're the only state that has 2 big state fairs. They're really county fairs,
right? Right.
And they are both in the top 10. But Tulsa's the bigger one, and it's number 5.
I thought we were bigger than Oklahoma
Yeah,
City's. Yeah,
number 5. And Texas
is number 1.
Yeah, and then Minnesota's number 2. And then there's this multi-state one, which you shouldn't even compare, that's up in New England. That's several states go together to do one. And, in New York. And then, then it's Tulsa's number 5.
Texas starts next week.
Yeah.
Next week.
They actually, their first kickoff weekend, the start of it is to have the OU Texas game, and that's our last weekend here. So both fairs are going on at the same time, and stuff. But anyway, hats off Tulsa County for decades putting on one of the best fairs in the nation.
Yeah, the sad thing is though, lately, there's a lot of crime or criminal elements, mainly kids, young people or gangs trying to mess it up. And
I wish I had the details on this, because there was a push just a couple days ago to put a curfew on and they were trying to do anyone under 21. I have a problem.
21 is a little.
Once you reach the age of majority,
right?
Now you're taking away civil rights.
Yeah, 18 might be okay, but
and so you say unless you're in the presence of a guardian,
right.
or a parent, will be the exception.
Right.
But this is because of one incident at the Oklahoma County Fair.
Yeah. Do you remember the old television thing at 10 o'clock? It used to be when I was a kid. I don't know when it stopped. Well, TV went off the air at 10 o'clock at night.
Okay.
And then they would have this thing come up before the test pattern. And it would say, it's 10, no, before the news, 10 o'clock news, it would say, it's 10 o'clock. Do you know where your children are?
Beautiful.
Yeah. It was. They should bring that back. One of the networks, one of the local stations, at least, if not all three, should bring that back.
Yeah.
To ask everybody, say, it's 10 o'clock. Do you know where your children are?
Yeah. Okay.
And if you don't, then...
Yeah, you
know
what?
Honey.
Okay.
Where's Sally?
Griffin Communications, you want to try to salvage some of your credibility in this community, that would be one. And the reason I'm saying this, Eddie, here's my next point. All right. Ryan Walters, our state superintendent, has asked the state school board, Don Burdick, who still has an open invitation to come here, is part of that school board. The state school board to revise the criteria by which they determine accreditation of public schools. In other words, the state accreditates the school districts in order for them to get funding. And Tulsa Public Schools kind of got a probationary here. But Ryan Walters says is nowhere in here does it look at, are you actually competent in establishing a certain level of academic performance as part of this? And all of the predecessors, they have slipped away from that. And so he's asking the state school board to revise the language by which that, so that it reflects that. Well, last night on Channel 6, they reported on it, and here's the way they wrapped up. They said, Ryan Walters does not have the authority to set these standards. In other words, they're making it sound like he's trying to be a dictator. Ryan Walters merely asked the school board, state school board, to establish those standards. They are the body that does have that authority. Channel 6 would never have done that for Joy Hoffmeister.
Oh, no.
This is a smear This is disinformation. This is trying to twist Ryan Walters as to saying or trying to achieve something he's not trying to do.
Yeah.
He's trying to clean up for Joy Hoffmeister.
Right.
And so I have a problem with you, Channel 6, Griffin, the former owners of KFAQ. This is a problem. And so that's another one of our issues. And we didn't talk about Ukraine votes. Our Republican Party.
Please.
Yeah. Congress did vote for some funding just here in the last day or two. And of our 5 members of Congress from Oklahoma, 3 of them voted to send even more money and more commitment to the United States. And they are Tom Cole, Frank Lucas, and Stephanie Bice. Josh Brakeen, District 2, and Kevin Hearn, District 1, did not vote to support that. So if you think that this is a problem, Oklahoma is part of the problem because 3 out of 5 went along with it.
That speaks to our side of the state, though.
Yeah, it does.
That our side of the state, and I hate to say it, but it really speaks to who you're answerable to. A lot of the representatives from that other side of the state, there's a lot of defense contractor money over there.
Yes, especially Oklahoma City.
Well, and even further, Lawton, with the air bases. You got the air bases and Fort Sill and everything.
Well, let me say this. Tinker Air Force Base in southern Oklahoma City has all 3 congressional districts that voted for it within a mile of Tinker Air Force Base.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yes.
3 congressional.
Frank Lucas, District 3, took in almost the whole south side of Oklahoma City at this last census. And Midwest City has always been Tom Cole's northern border. So he's always wanted to be the congressman for Tinker Air Force Base. Okay. And then Oklahoma City.
But he also incorporates Lawton.
Lawton and Duncan, which is where.
What's the other base out there? Isn't there another air base?
Altus. But also in Duncan, you have. What's that contractor that Dick Cheney ran? Halliburton.
Oh, Halliburton.
Halliburton, another contractor.
Oh, and what's the armory where they make all the munitions down south?
Yeah, but now see, that's going to be in Josh Brakeen. That's in McAllister, the ammunitions factory.
Yeah.
That's
really?
actually
That's Josh.
Brakeen's.
Oh, okay. Well, go Josh. That's,
Yeah. So anyway, but I think you're onto something. It's that defense money. Because there's a lot of campaign contributions come from the defense industry, and they want more war. They want more munitions. They want more contracts to feed the beast. Yeah.
It's so short-sighted. They don't understand that they're, I think they honestly do not take seriously the danger.
Yeah.
They do not see the danger to our nation from this. They think, for some reason, I think they think it's so far away, no one can touch us here. Mm-hmm. But in a nuclear era, nothing is out of reach.
Yeah.
2 nuclear bombs today can wipe out half of the United States.
Yeah. And I have to say, I used to be a neocon. I used to be all caught up in the war. I was all for it. I mean, when we went to war against Iraq,
me too. I was on because I felt that Kuwait deserved to be defended because it was defenseless against a bully.
Well, that was the first time. That was in 91. I mean, I was for the 2001. And somebody challenged me on it, Christian friend, somebody I respect greatly. He says, why? I said, they tried to kill our president, which is true. Saddam Hussein did organize an attempt to assassinate Bush Sr. And while that may justify it, doesn't mean that it's advantageous and in your best interest to do whatever you have a right to do.
Right.
And it was on lies.
Right.
And listen, this isn't a partisan thing, because Bill Clinton and Hillary Clinton were part of that same cabal who were spreading the misinformation of weapons of mass destruction in Iraq. Okay? They never found any. And so I'm just telling you, the neocons are actually, you can't even call them neocons, because they're in the Democrat and Republican, the war caucus. You know, and this is a real problem. We really have a problem with this.
Oh, yeah.
You know, and Eisenhower warned us when he left office.
Yeah, that was a great speech.
Yeah.
If you get a chance, Google Dwight Eisenhower's speech on the military-industrial complex.
Yeah.
You'll pull up. It's worth your while.
And he ran the Second World War.
Yeah, general of the armies.
Yeah. The Allied forces. Because he was head over the whole British, French resistance.
U.S.
Yeah.
Right.
Australia, all of them. Yeah.
New Zealand.
Yeah. In Canada, they had, and yeah, they all agreed, well, let's let Ike
Poland.
do it. Yeah. So I'm just saying, it's bigger than you may realize.
Yeah.
And the money that corrupts.
There are two presidents, but to me, who the real most underrated president we had is ever. And I know it's going to sound crazy. Truman.
Think so?
I think so.
I respect him a lot.
He came in a period in between that was a tough time.
Yeah, it was.
He had to pick up the pieces from Roosevelt and then clean up after the war. And, Eisenhower came in as a war hero, and it kind of, and take us on into the new era.
I got it. But remember, MacArthur and Truman butted heads. Now, I know growing up in your house, that'd be interesting because your dad was Army and MacArthur was Army, right? Who's right in that? From what I hear, McCarthy wanted to use nuclear bombs on China in the Korean War.
MacArthur and Patton, they had MacArthur and Patton, they wanted to meet in Moscow.
Yeah.
MacArthur wanted to keep pushing from the Pacific in, and then Patton wanted to keep pushing from Europe east.
Yeah.
And they were going to. They seriously had a plan. We'll meet in Moscow. Mm-hmm. They were going to take out China and Russia. And but they got stopped.
Yeah. So, and again, you could argue Truman stood against
actually, China, they didn't really have a real plan. I mean, they weren't really bent on so much wiping out China.
Well, my dad went and fought in that war. He said MacArthur was advocating to bomb China with nuclear bombs.
Really?
During the Korean War.
I never heard that. That. This is news flash.
Well,
the first time I heard that. I knew they were very much bent on taking out Russia, but it might not have been bad because, as we know, the Korean War was just 5 years later.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's a proxy war. Yeah. I mean, it was communism, global communism was.
Yeah. But the real enemy was Russia. Mm-hmm. It was Russia, so.
Yeah, but that whole narrative.
That started the communist thing, and pushed it into China, and then with Mao, and then it ended up in Vietnam, Cambodia, Laos. Yeah.
Yeah. I do have one other thing I want to say in Oklahoma. I'm sorry, were you done with that?
No, I was done.
Okay. I went to a county commissioners meeting. Darren Gantz, our good friend here, reached out to me and said, you probably want to catch this one. And you and I have had to fight against growing government and pork barrel spending and boondoggles and, whether it be arenas or, low water dams or, whatever, parks and stuff like this, and spending on fluff. But what they discussed at this one was really a core function of government. And it was that right now we're going to spend more money in the next several years just maintaining the courthouse because the building's falling apart.
Right.
And they brought in some experts who said it isn't just the structural integrity of the building or the too small for how big this county has grown. Since 1980, we've doubled in population, in Tulsa County. But he said the layout of it is more dangerous for civilians going there because you've got people in custody that are walking the same halls that you and I are, in and out of trials and that. And it's costing us more in sheriff's department staffing and all kinds of things. But and then you look at just what it costs. You can't even go down there without paying $5 for parking and that. And I think what they're going to do, they know they're going to look at building a new building. And I think what they've picked is inside the interdispersal loop. They wouldn't announce, but I think they figured it out. That's going to actually have surface parking and parking lots all around it with free parking. And what that's going to save the Tulsa County taxpayer and citizen to use it, the access of it, and to have it set up in such a way that it actually costs less in operational labor costs is just going to be fantastic.
Oh, great.
Because there are the experts that came in from Michigan and from Virginia and other places that, gave us some assessments of what do you need and how can we deliver that in a less expensive way. So I want to give my commendation, Kelly Dunkerley, who's been here in the room with us and shows I said, when you pick a new site, come on in. Because let's talk about it. Because, folks, you and I, fiscal conservatives, we want to stand against the growth of government. We want to stand against the fluff that the taxpayers pay for, like arenas, so the rich folk can spend $100 on concert tickets. I know Eddie's a concert promoter, in the past life. No. But it's fluff. The taxpayers, the single mom has to pay taxes on that for tickets for the rich folk to go to their fancy shows. And everybody says, but it'll trickle down to you. But this is a core function of government. And we have to understand this and separate this out from the fluff. And so I just wanted to commend. I think the county commissioners are taking this in a responsible direction. So we'll see what they come up with. We'll see what it costs to pay for it. But I think it's going to be less long term than what we're paying.
That'll be good. That'll be good. Yeah.
And the other thing, renovating, they say there's not enough courtroom space now. People are being denied their liberty because it's taking longer to have their courts, or people being made right in a lawsuit of somebody who's harmed them because you don't have enough courtrooms to actually have the trials you need. And then if you renovate, you're shutting down some of that while you're trying to put things on. And you can't do, court proceedings while they're pounding up on the ceiling above you. And so you end up having to do that renovation middle of the night. And what it costs, it'll be faster, quicker, cheaper, just build a whole new building.
I think so.
So I'm just that's what I advocate for. Don't try to patch up what you got. It's time to move down the street.
I agree.
Yeah. And I think they're going to choose the east side of the downtown interdispersal loop. That's the other thing. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hey, something we probably could have led with, but I want to finish with it, and that's the impeachment inquiry, which is the biggest news out there. Democrats are trying everything they can. They're flailing to say there's nothing to see here, when there's everything to see here. Yeah. Everything to see here. It's unraveling. It's unraveling is all I can say. The Biden case is the the innocence is unraveling. Is what's happening. I've got to give it to James Comer, who's the head of this impeachment committee.
He's the parent in the room with the children are throwing fits.
He is good.
Yeah.
He is. I mean, he's steady. He just doesn't care what they say. You know, they say all they want, but he'll just keep going. Great people. I mean, they're great people on this committee, and they're doing their job. The impeachment inquiry, the good thing about this, it's not a full impeachment. This will just determine whether or not there should be an impeachment. See, there was never an inquiry with Donald Trump. They just went straight for the impeachment. With the inquiry, what this is, it's an investigation. They're going to subpoena records, witnesses, etc., to build the case. And then once the case is built, then they will decide. And I think by the time they've gotten through with the inquiry, it will be plain to see that there should be, because they will have so many witnesses, so much. Democrats will look dumb. And what they'll do, the timing should be perfect. They can, if they do this right, they can have the timing lead right up to the election.
Yeah. So I want to ask, I was 13 when Nixon resigned. You were already in college. Might have been done with college by then.
Yes, actually I was, yeah.
Okay, so your perspective on this is better than mine, I'm sure. You agree Nixon, if it had gone to the Senate, he would have been removed from office?
No, not in hindsight, no. Everybody wanted him out, but apparently in hindsight, from what I understand, there really was not enough of a case, because they couldn't prove that he actually was behind it. And I don't think he really was. I think his people were, but I don't think he actually had anything to do with the actual.
There's the 18 minutes of erased tape in Rosewood's, recording device.
Right.
And that's the thing that makes him look like,
It makes him look.
So here's what I want to say. Nixon did not break into the Watergate building.
Right.
Nixon, by everybody's account, did not know ahead of time.
Right.
What Nixon's being accused of is covering it up.
Right.
Okay. So using that as a standard, and every Democrat would say, yes, Nixon should have been removed from office. The Democrats say that.
Right.
Okay. We're not saying that Biden shook down the Chinese or the Ukrainians or anyone else. What they're trying to, first of all, prove is that his son did. And at what point does he ask his son, where are you getting all this money, boy?
Right.
And all these gifts that seem to be the 10% for the big guys seem to be systematic and regular.
Well, also, and did he ask the IRS? Did he ask the Attorney General's office? Did he ask FBI? Anywhere along the way, did he ask for a cover-up?
Yeah, and I don't think you would ever. I mean, how many politicians would be that stupid to do it themselves? You send fixers to go communicate that stuff, the wink and the nod stuff. And then we find out now that Hunter Biden claimed that he was paying $45,000 a month rent for one of his dad's houses. That's called money laundering.
Right. And where was he getting the $45,000 a month from? Right.
But much like selling artwork at inflated prices.
And who did he sell it to?
It is money laundering.
We still don't know who he's selling it to.
Right. So it's money laundering.
Right.
And the fact that you're not paying taxes on the income is criminal.
Right.
Okay. If you're not claiming the income, it's a felony. If you claim you owe it but don't pay it, it's just a misdemeanor. Okay. He did not claim it as income. We're finding out about hidden bank accounts that they did. That's all felony.
Make your case, Mr. Van Riesingen.
And I'm just saying, it reaches the point, because what they're really trying to say is, we know Hunter's guilty. I mean, the media's saying it. Right. We know Hunter's guilty. How much does that translate to his dad being guilty? And I'm saying, let's use the Nixon standard.
Right.
Nixon, after the fact, appears to have covered some stuff up.
Right. And how willing is Hunter to take the total fall? But we've got James implicated now.
His brother.
Right. And a couple of nieces and cousins.
Yeah, because everybody's getting rich.
Yeah, there's like 6 of them, I think.
Think about it. The drug addict in the family is the one giving money to everybody.
Right, right.
What doesn't look right in this picture?
Right, exactly.
God, let's all be drug addicts if it's that wealthy.
What for?
Yeah.
What are they getting the money for? Right. Exactly.
Yeah. So this is what I'm saying is, fine, if we're going to use the Nixon standard, let's apply the Nixon standard. Is that even if there's cover-up after the fact, that's enough.
Yeah, it's just funny to me to see the Democrats trying to. There's nothing to see here.
Oh, yeah.
There's nothing to see here.
Well, it's all because there's a government shutdown. They don't want us to think about it.
Right.
You know, it's just. It's so childish.
It is.
Yeah,
it
is.
is.
And by the way, I want to say, along with you, Comer, I always thought, Jim Jordan's a better guy to do it. Comer was a little more careful about picking which fights he was going to engage in. And he learned it. I don't know that Jim Jordan, as much as I respect that man, Jordan might fight every battle instead of just moving on. Right. You know, Comer, there were some points where people wanted to enter some things in the record, and he fought and fought, and finally he just gave in. Yeah. And that because it was more of a distraction to fight him. You know, and believe me, I still think that the Democrats are just hissy fit children, but they're doing it for a purpose, and they know they're doing it.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, and Raskin took off his do-rag.
Yeah.
What do you know?
What was with that?
I don't know. It's just, you know, whatever.
Was he getting plugs put in?
Maybe that's it. Maybe.
And they finally took. The scarring is gone.
You heard it here. This is our suspicion. But, you know, the antics of having all of these, you know, charts and stuff standing up behind him. But, and by the way, the fact that he's dressing more presentable, get rid of the do-rag, okay, is what happened in the Senate that they
voted the dress code back in.
It was unanimous.
Unanimous.
If it's unanimous, that means either Fetterman voted for it or he abstained.
Yeah.
Okay. Something tells me that was more damaging than the media's letting us know.
Yeah.
You know, because that's when there's Rush Limbaugh said this is there are some things that the people can relate. Kind of like, you know, the House bank scandal. He said, people just know it in simple terms. I can't do that. Why should a congressman get away with it? You know, a lot of folks have dress codes at work or school or anything. Why should Fetterman be able to walk in a hoodie and shorts?
Yeah, I don't understand what Schumer was thinking when he tried to pull that. I don't know.
Yeah. I think yeah. So anyway, that was a kind of interesting deal. That's kind of my list today.
Okay. All right. Well, it's good to be back. Hopefully next week we'll be full of fluid and ready to do it again.
Yeah.
And, hey, if you guys have items that you would like for us to discuss, issues that you want to bring up with us, please feel free. freshblackcoffee.com. I'm sorry, at gmail.com. freshblackcoffee@gmail.com. And, of course, this is at freshblack.coffee, which, if you didn't know that, you couldn't be watching, or unless you're watching live on Facebook. But anyway, as always, it's good.
You know, I thought, Eddie, you and I have talked about some men's health things, and I think we ought to look at doing regular things, but expand it. We just, you know, we talked about testosterone issues, hormonal things, but I think, you know, there's, from time to time, you've told me some great, how to cure hiccups, you know, and occasionally I stumble across something. No,
have you needed it?
I almost never gotten it. I think it's been 20 years since I've had hiccups, you know. Now, my daughter-in-law has hiccups almost every day, so I'll have
you told her? You give her
I haven't had a chance to yet.
Give her, impress her.
Yeah.
It'll be like that magic trick that everybody, wow.
Yeah. So, but those are a couple of things that, I've been thinking about.
Yeah, that'd be good.
It'd be good to.
By the way, as far as testosterone, I've joined you now.
Tell me.
Well, I got my doctor to give me the prescription, and I picked up my prescription.
Cool.
So but my doctor's, I can go to his office. His nurse will give me the injections rather than me having to do it myself.
Yeah, I had that too. I just didn't want to drive across the town once a week.
Oh, okay. My doctor's just a mile down the road. So
There you go.
Yeah. I'll just let her stick me in the butt or the leg or wherever.
Yeah, the thigh. That's
the thigh.
Yeah, because
they
they
do
want
it in the arm too, but
they want a big muscle mass. They said it absorbs better in muscle than fat.
Well, then pick a spot.
Yeah.
Oh no! Pick a spot.
Oh. Yeah.
In my head, the biggest muscle.
There you go. Oh, good for you. Yeah, because I know you've changed some of your your healthcare decisions like that, and some of the marketing things went along with that.
Yeah.
So, yep.
Hey, everybody. It's been good.
Yep. All right.
All right.
See you next week.
God bless. Bye.